23rd, 2022 Utility Advisory Committee meeting. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Dow?
Here.
Mr. Hunter?
Here.
Mr. Williams? Mr. Jefferson?
Here.
Mr. Krause?
Sort of here.
Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Mr. Sampson?
Here.
Mr. Cumberland?
Here.
All right, we have minutes from the January 5th meeting. Yeah, she did. She did. I would accept a motion to approve the minutes from that meeting.
So moved.
All right, have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now's the time when we'd have a person wishing to address the committee. Do we have anyone that would like to say anything? Go ahead.
Okay.
Come on up.
Scott Stewart, haven't been here for a while, so I stopped by and security meeting here, but we're continuing to make some progress on Highway 47 with some different people down there. We don't have any lockdown for sure. We're working with both sides of the interchange right now. We appreciate the work that everybody's doing to help that intersection from the lag down there. So we're working on the south side and the north side, both with different prospects, and one day it'll kind of come together, but we appreciate your help. So I see that work being done down there. I see the dirt being moved, the line being put in, and the big line was pushed through there, I think, yesterday. That's kind of cool. So we appreciate that.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on down there.
Yeah.
All right, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Move.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, Jamie Bell, discussion and action. We need a status of the current projects.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. How are you tonight?
Good.
This afternoon? Whatever it
Barely.
is. Jamie Bell, I'm an engineer with Jones Evans and Associates. I'm here to update you on the projects that are moving and grooving in Columbia County and Lake City right now. We have a number of them, so it's all right with you. I'll combine items 2 and 3 into one big update from me.
Yeah.
And I can also touch on item 4 at the end of my portion, so you can kind of get through it all at once. The first project that we have going with y'all is the alternative water supply feasibility analysis, which has been our effort to identify potential alternative water supply projects within the city of Lake City and the contributing area that affects your water use permit allocation. And that has been an effort in order to increase your water use permit allocation when the time comes in 2023, when that's ready to go and be renewed. The current status, we are waiting on Swanee River Water Management to approve the draft of the report that they have in their hands. We sent it to them at the end of January. Their staff met at the beginning of March to come up with comments for us, and we are waiting to receive those comments from them. We developed the model and ran the scenarios to identify the potential offsets for your permit. And once they approve and hopefully don't have any additional comments, then all we have to do is take about a week to wrap up that work and that project is done. So we're at the 1 yard line on that one. We're just waiting for district approval on our draft report so we can finalize those projects we identified and get them out to y'all. And again, the intent of that project is to identify ways to offset your potable water use in order to get more water for you to expand and grow. So that's where that project is. The one that's on everyone's mind, I'm sure, is State Road 47, which we were just talking about. I have a number of updates for you on that project. The project was scheduled to be completed in October, and I'm happy to say that we are ahead of schedule right now. I'm not going to put a date on it, but I can tell you it will be completed on or very likely before that originally scheduled end date. We had one delay in the project with the horizontal directional drilling underneath I-75. The gas drill caused a small heave in the highway, but our staff, the city staff and DOT staff out at the site, and we addressed DOT's concerns, and we worked with Legacy, the contractor, to get a new horizontal directional drill subcontractor out there. They have since completed the gas drill and the first wastewater drill under I-75. So the last big item on this project is the second northern drill that will actually connect this project to the Kickwider wastewater plant. So we are just waiting for them to finish the Gopher Tortoise survey up there, which is required to be updated because it expired. And then we can finish that portion of the project. Legacy I will say has been doing a really, really good job getting all their pipe laid and installed at a pretty rapid pace, quicker than we expected them to be able to. So almost all of the pipe is laid. That's nearly complete. We also have one lift station in the ground, and the second one is getting started. So the remaining items are to do that last big drill, finalize the lift station, and then do some wrap up with the gas items. But we are very close to having gas service available on Ring Court, even though the wastewater system is not online yet. So that is available for a customer should they so choose to hook up. I know that was a big concern, is getting that out there. We've been pushing that as quickly as we can. Otherwise, we had some minor changes that were addressed in the field by Brian Scott and our construction folks. And so overall, like I said, we are on track to finish ahead of schedule. So I just want to say that Legacy is doing a really good job. Hector, and it's been great to work with city staff to work around a couple of these unexpected issues that came up. So that will definitely be ready to go for hooking up to this summer and for any future phases that might come in the state report. That's the Stereo 47 project. Additionally, we have the Lake City Utility Master Plan that we were, as I said last time, waiting for the rainy season to start so we can do our wastewater data collection. As you can see, it has started. So we have our contractor ADS lined up to install flow meters in the field to collect data on your gravity flow system, just to figure out how quickly and how quickly that flow is moving and how much is moving through, so that we can identify any capacity concerns in that in those gravity sections throughout the city service area. We have also finished compiling our service area data and worked with city staff to not only answer questions about some of these data points, but also to identify new developments or new connections that will be coming in the 5, 10, and 20-year horizon. So we have all the information we need to finalize the population and demand projections, and we are beginning field work this month. As soon as we have the field work, we'll go ahead and calibrate the models and be able to start spitting out projects that would actually not only improve the capacity of the existing utility systems, but also to show us where we need to grow and have new projects to address the new developments coming in those 4 highly anticipated economic growth areas. And to recap, that's obviously the North Florida Mega Industrial Park, the area west on US 90, State Road 47 and I-75, and then the north part of town near Bell Road. So those are the 4 kind of hotly anticipated development areas that we are ensuring we have new projects lined up for to serve those areas, as well as additional projects throughout town to meet growing development internally, infill with residential and commercial growth and things like that. So that project is on track, like I said, getting field work and modeling done and to have the report wrapped up early summer. That's the plan there. So we're feeling good about that one. Any questions on the ongoing projects in Lake City proper?
Yeah, I have a question there on that master plan. So the projects as they come in, when the master plan's complete, those will be projects ready to turn over for grant funds pretty much?
Yes, sir. That the intent is to, in the body of the report, we will describe the projects very thoroughly and what went into developing them. And then there will be an appendix of what I call 1-page project sheets. And those will have a summary of the project itself, the benefits, and the rough cost estimate, as well as a small map. And that's something that could be either submitted directly to funding agencies or very easily turned into a grant application, because you'll have almost all the information you need in one spot. So our intent is to, at the end of this project, not only have developed projects, but to be ready to go after grant funding right away, to start putting these in the ground as the city and the county deem appropriate in prioritization. Any other questions on the active city projects?
Anyone have any questions?
Paul, is the city hooking up the campground, or is that this construction company doing that?
The construction company, that's for the additional grant money I got, what was it, last month, Jamie, the 400,000?
Just shy of 450.
Yeah. That's what that grant's for, to put that RV park on the system.
Cool.
I didn't think it sounded like it was on, but I wasn't sure. I'm pretty loud anyway, so I think it's okay. And then at, I'm not sure if it was the last or 2 city council meetings before we, two city council meetings ago, we had the Bell Road wastewater improvements and the 24-inch water main connecting to the North Florida Mega Industrial Park approved by council. Those projects were approved a little while back, but we were waiting to determine which basically pot of funding it would come out of. And there were considerations made for ARPA funding to be used for those projects. And so we are just waiting for a signed notice to proceed from the city. And then we can kick off both of those projects as well. As a reminder, the Bell Road project is it was 6 projects total. What I'm talking about was the 4 projects within city limits. And those included putting in a new force main to alleviate capacity on a portion of your system at the north end of town, as well as to put in a new lift station near Young's Park, a new force main and gravity main, and then to put in some valving to allow the city to choose whether the flow goes to St. Margaret's or to Kicklighter, which will help alleviate capacity concerns at St. Margaret's and send more of the flow to Kicklighter because it's being currently underutilized in that area. So we're just waiting for notice to proceed and we'll go ahead and kick that one off. And then the 24-inch water main is the project that we've discussed that we did the alternatives analysis for, and it would be connecting the city's water treatment plant to the northwestern boundary of the industrial park where the proposed residential area is going to be. And that is the line that was sized to provide approximately 4 million gallons per day to the industrial park of potable water. So that's another one that we're just waiting on notice to proceed and we can kick that off and start the design as well.
So going back to the Bell Road projects, so the 6 of those, that's going to give us some increased flow capacity on the current sewer system.
Yes, sir. The intent of those projects was to, we were looking at an increased demand of approximately 560,000 gallons per day. That was an estimate based on residential growth as well as the proposed development at Bell Road. And so we came up with about 560,000 gallons a day based on the estimates of build out. And the projects we identified will make enough room for at least that much flow, but we always build in a factor of safety. And so we believe it could accommodate a little bit more, but it's just a little over 500,000 gallons of flow capacity.
Okay, very good. Anyone else have any questions on those?
Yeah, 2 things, Bell Road first, your answer was about the Bell Road. Am I understanding that the city is going to address what we need to get additional flow from Bell Road to either St. Margaret or Kicklighter? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, sir. We identified in a study from about 1.5 years ago, 6 projects that needed to be done to get that flow capacity you need for the development up on Bell Road. And it was decided that the city would move forward with the 4 projects that are roughly within city limits, and the county was going to move forward with the 2 projects that are north of city limits. And Mr. Cross has brought up previously that there may be some coordination between the county and the city, that the county would fund those northern 2, but the city would facilitate the design and construction of them.
Well, we've already funded, we already set aside our portion of that money.
Yes, sir.
How long it's gonna take, and I didn't hear you say before that project is up and going. So Bell Road is gonna be a real hot spot.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
We got Project Illumination and several others that is negotiation land prices now. 1 have already done so.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is the time frame? We don't wanna be able to tell a company, oh, you're gonna locate here in the Bell Road corridor, and then we have a problem getting them sewer.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that concern. And we are looking at, once you receive notice to proceed, from start of design to completion of construction, approximately 18 months. We are seeing, at least on our side, some delays in survey right now where most surveyors can't even mobilize for 2 to 3 months. And so that is a delay that we're dealing with on the design side of things. But bearing that in mind, I'm still comfortable saying an 18-month window from start to a substantial completion of construction to make those improvements. And
when is the time? And you might have said it, but I might have missed it. When are you expected to be under construction to start the 18 months?
Oh, the 18 months would be from start of design to finish of construction. It's depending on how many conflicts we see based on survey, I estimate a 9 to 12 month construction window. And that's primarily because it's a pretty busy corridor up near Washington Street, I believe is the street, with regard to utilities. And so going from that area, like the Youngs Park, Washington Street area, down to where we're gonna have the valving between the plants, that'll be a little bit more challenging from a construction perspective, just with, maintenance of traffic and things like that. But I'd estimate a 9 to 12 month construction window and about a 6 to 8 month design window. So roughly 18 months, as long as survey isn't delayed too far. We're just waiting for the city to sign off on the funding that council approved. So we're expecting that shortly, and then we can get going.
So, are there enough flow now to accommodate businesses that want to move in the Bell Road corridor, or they're not? We don't want to be in a business to tell a business we got utility and come to find out that we don't have, it's 18 months, 3 years away.
Yes, sir. So in our modeling, we showed that the city can accommodate up to 130,000 gallons per day of new wastewater flow from the Bell Road area. It would take minor improvements to get up to 260, and then we'd have to do all 6 improvements to get up to 560. That was roughly what we talked about. So the city can accommodate some growth in the Bell Road corridor, but to accommodate the full build out that we've projected, it would need to involve these projects. But yeah, you could approve up to 130,000 gallons per day right now and you'd be okay.
So the money on the city side hasn't been allocated,
That's correct.
and so all you're waiting is for their signature to get started.
Yes, sir. I think it's more on the financial accounting side that we're waiting because of the challenges with the federal ARPA funding and all that good stuff and moving it around.
What's important to the county and the land up on the Bell Road corridor? We need a statement from the city through your engineer, a critical path on when we might have this available.
Mm-hmm.
Because we want to expand the doodle. In order to expand the doodle up there, property on this property on the Bell Road corridor, we have to show that we can provide those services to this additional roughly 2,000 acres.
Mm-hmm.
So that would help us when we present this to the state for approval of expanding the doodle, that we can do so. That's something critical for that area.
Sure, and I would be comfortable once we get a signed contract and kick off the project. During that kickoff meeting, we'll discuss schedule and make sure everyone's on the same page and that there's nothing else beyond my knowledge that would slow things down. And I just would want to double check with a surveyor before I put anything in writing. But once we have a project kickoff meeting, I'd be happy to put the proposed schedule in writing for the city and the county if that's what y'all want. Mm-hmm.
Not correct saying Daniel Pratt offered to donate the property on the east side of what it wants to expand or in that. So we'll have the city begin to look at expanding that water line, excuse me, on the east side of 441. Then we have to go to Daniel Pratt property, go toward the interstate. Where is that?
That is not something I've been working on.
Hold on just a second, David.
Some puzzled looks, I think that is to the SNS there at the interstate, target distribution up to the SNS. The city currently has a small, you said it was a 2-inch line, upgrading it to a 6 or a 12 and stubbing it out at the interstate. I believe that's what.
Yes. So there is a possibility for that whole left side, that utility, little truck stop right there before we get to the interstate, to completely redo that whole intersection.
That's certainly something that we can do. It wasn't on my list of projects, but I'm happy to work with the city on whatever they might need help with to make that happen.
Yeah, this is something that North Florida was working on. We worked with them on that when they originally came up about extending, extra capacity to that station there. And that's when we had moved from one, I believe now we're on the west side of the road, if I'm not correct, Brian. Because DOT really didn't want us on the other side because of the sidewalk congestion and stuff over there. So we were gonna stub out directly in front of there, or under the road right in front of the business, I believe, Brian.
Gets a line from the Daisy, will extend down to the tie-in point where it goes on the interstate and then across 41.
And that'll give us more capacity, like you said, on that whole side there. Because like I said, we already are stubbed out under I-10 to go north as well, so.
So those were the active and upcoming city projects. Additionally, I have an update on the North Florida Mega Industrial Park.
Jamie, this one, I missed a question earlier. When you was talking about earlier for the city's, offsets,
Mhm.
are you in a position to say what kind of offsets in gallons that you've all, that you shared with Swanee River Water Management?
Yeah, I mean, Paul and Mike have seen the draft report. I don't feel comfortable stating for a fact what offsets we're looking at because the district is stuck on one item that affects the whole model. They're questioning our calculations when it comes to evapotranspiration. We're trying to get the city credit for folks who are on city water but not sewer because I mean, when you send stuff to your septic tank, it makes it back down eventually, right? So we're trying to get the city credit for that, and that's a big sticking point for the district. However, we have some good options, and my recommendation for the city would be to wait until the regulatory climate changes a little bit, because currently you are required to offset more than what DEP is proposing you will have to offset when they update the rule. Because they're going to an apportionment system. Right now, you have to offset your whole use, no matter what, if you want to expand, which is more than is like realistically feasible with any amount of money. It's almost impossible to do that. However, DEP is moving towards this apportionment system, which shows it's not just you with your 100% impact on the river, it's everyone else up here that has an impact too. And so once they update that rule, you'll be responsible for a lot less. And that is doable. I just talked to someone with DEP on Monday who is of the opinion the district may be able to start using that mindset sooner. So I'd like to talk to them, but first we need them to approve this draft report.
Fair enough.
One other comment.
Yes, sir.
Something you mentioned that I think we need to put the board conversation into that. When Rocky asked the board to he felt that it was a conflict him to serve on both the Fort White Advisory Board and the City County Advisory Board, and asked me what David asked me what I serve. I say on one condition. I told the board this Thursday night. I will not ever make a decision based on what I think. It would be on the board, message from the board. And I referred to Ron Reagan when he was always negotiating overseas with our foreign adversaries. Before he would make a decision, he would go back to his support staff and say, is this good for the United States? If he thought it was good for the United States, then he would agree to whoever would accomplish the war. And I take that same concept here. It's never about what I think. It's what the board have said to share with the committee on what the board thinks. You talked about engineering for the residential part of the mega site. The board is this is what the board said on Thursday night. That we are, and it was agreed upon from the board that the mega site, the county will handle everything in the mega site, total from residential to industrial. So that needs to be put out, so everybody knows that that is the direction of 5 county commission. That's all, I'm just telling you, that is the direction of 5 county commission. David, am I correct on what I'm saying?
Board voted 5-0.
I just want to, so you won't be spending a bunch of money doing this and doing that, but you use that money elsewhere.
Thank you for the update. Any other questions or comments for me on those projects?
So on the mega industrial park, are you saying that the county commission is saying they do not want the city to run the water line to the residential part?
But the county will put in a potable water system.
And that capacity is 2-1, right?
We got 2.1 million.
Okay, so hypothetically, we get a 2 million gallon user. At that point, where's our options there? I mean, I know we're gonna have to go after another, advanced cut, but I mean, are we in a position? And what you're saying sounds enticing to me, as far as the capability of going to get more cut for the city and the county, but and I don't know, right now, Glenn, I think the projects that we feel comfortable with or hoping, thank God it's not real high user.
That's correct. We're under the threshold significantly.
As with any consumptive use permit, when you reach a certain point, you'll have to apply for an expansion and you'll have to be able to do the offsets to get that expansion. So we have a total maximum consumptive use permit right now of 2.1. Like I said, we will hit a point at some point before we get to the 2.1, where we have to start looking to expand our consumptive use permit, or water use permit.
And you gotta remember, we're putting in place to be very aggressive at a reuse, water system. So we can have the additional cover we need to. Columbia County want to take the lead and put water back in that. That's how it goes.
I'll refer back to Ms. Bell, but I believe, yes, we got a $2-point-something million grant to do advanced wastewater treatment, which included reuse and the possibility of doing the deep well injection. She could update you on the status.
Yes, the county received a $2.9 million grant through DEP and the Swanee River Water Management District to cover the advanced wastewater treatment upgrades to the plant from what we originally designed, as well as the basically laying the groundwork for the public access reuse system, all the pumps and pipes that we need for that. I may need to defer to North Florida, who worked on your water use permit, but I believe the 2.1 million gallon allocation you have already takes into account the up to 1.5 million in offsets that would come from your reclaimed water system, which is great that it all works together. But if you wanted to expand beyond the 2.1, you may need to find additional offsets. I wasn't involved in the water use permitting process, so I can't say for sure, but that's typically how that works. And that's because we previously modeled you could pull about 600,000 without impacting the river and the MFL, and then you had to offset the rest. And so that's where the 1.5 came into play. But with regard to the plant update in general, we have a set schedule now for bidding and contractor selection that I wanted to share with you, which is really exciting. We will be going out to bid on Friday, April 8th. That's when the bids are planned to be advertised to the public through the county's online web portal. We will have a mandatory pre-bid meeting for anyone who is interested on bidding on the project on Tuesday, April 19th. The county has provided a location, so I will include that in an update as well. Any contractor questions are due a week later on April 26th. Any addendums with answers to those questions will be issued the first Tuesday in May. And then the bids on the plant will be due May 10th at 2 p.m. So the two most important dates you get out of that is that the bids will be advertised on April 8th and they will be due May 10th by 2 p.m. We'll have the bid opening immediately to follow. And then it's part of our jobs as your consultant to review those bids to determine if the contractors meet the minimum qualifications and to confirm all their numbers and quantities, as well as to follow up on the references that they provide to make sure that we can recommend the minimum qualified bidder for y'all. Our letter of recommendation will be due to the county by Monday, May 23rd, so that we can be on your June 2nd meeting agenda. That's the 9:30 a.m. meeting, June 2nd. So we will be prepared to recommend a contractor and go ahead and kick things off at that point. So going out to bid April 8th, and we're opening the bids on May 10th.
I just would like to make one point also. The county's not just sitting on the 2.17 cup. The county's already engaged in engineering to move forward to advance that cup, recognizing that we're going to need more than 2 million. So we're not just sitting on that, waiting for that threshold to be met. So the engineering should be starting as soon as the scope of work is described as and approved by the Board of County Commissioners. We'll be moving forward with that.
Great.
So just so that we understand that.
Yeah, and in the meantime, the initial plant construction includes a connection to the city's system, just so that they have potable water at the plant for wash downs, employee restrooms, and any kind of other water service needs that they have. No, they won't. Oh, why we're shaking our head? Well, no, we're not doing that?
If the city's not gonna be in a mega industrial park, it's not gonna be in our system.
Yeah, why would we, I mean, I don't understand why we would run a pipe from our plant to their plant. That doesn't make any bit of sense. So when they're bidding, they need to include that cost as well, I would think.
Exactly.
Because I mean, we were just informed that they're doing potable water, and so they don't need our hookup. Then we probably need to revisit the cost we've already allocated to put the engineering in to go to the plant, which we've been working together on for a while. As well as, I guess, the idea of being able to run that line and temporarily pump their water through it until, I think that's probably something that needs to be revisited, which I know you were looking into, but.
Yeah, I was talking about the line off US 90 with them as a customer.
No.
It's not happening.
Well, the driven, a big point is when these construction costs come back in, everybody's gonna sit down and like, because I can assure you, it's gonna be a little bit more what you was projecting, and of course, I know y'all got installation costs and everything in there, but I just know what just happened in Marion County, just Lake County.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing unexpected costs due to the Russia-Ukraine conflict right now in iron and steel, and some shortages in supply and some price increases there. So that's part of why we locked in these dates when we did. It's the fastest we can get this thing out to bid, and we can lock in those prices from the contractors. So we are also working with county staff, and I have a draft email waiting to send to you when I get back to my computer to identify potential in-kind services that the county staff could provide to have some cost savings as well. That'll be at alternates on the bid form instead of in the main bid, so that we can work with the contractor to find whatever cost savings we can. And then David and I have already talked about additional funding opportunities coming up in the next few months that we can maybe break off parts of the project and submit them separately, so that we're not beholden to any new requirements that come down the pipe between now and then. So we're working at all of the different options that we can find to fund this project. I don't really know how to deal with the water part, but that is the update on the schedule.
Well, and so going along with that, so I guess they're planning on the sewer plant possibly handling the residential as well in the county sewer plant?
I think of the best way to answer that question. There's a couple different issues. First, for the sake of clarity, what you were telling me is if the county were to approach the city and ask for a tap onto the city's water line, you would not allow the county to tap onto the water. As a customer, is that what I'm hearing?
I believe so, because if the idea is you didn't want our assistance, and I mean, we're committed how much money into this plan for engineering already, 250,000? I mean,
Asking if we
we've been
approach the-
working on one,
So if we approach the city as a customer,
so let's see.
we want to open our business as a customer, you're not going to allow us to tap onto the system.
I
just
think
wanna
that might
clarify.
be a discussion for the full council. Because I'm not sure that that would be in the city's best interest, because if we're working together as a partner, that's one thing. But if we're not as a partner, then I don't know what we're doing there.
So you don't
I
want a
mean,
customer.
Yeah, not only that customer, but any other customer that's already connected to the city. So, you know, in other words, if you're gonna do the water and you're gonna do the sewer, I guess you'll be doing it all. Because I don't think we're gonna run sewer lines to residential that we're not running water to. That doesn't make sense either, does it?
We're not gonna have sewer only customers, no.
Yeah, so we have sewer right now on 90.
So as of right now, there is an understanding that if a customer were to come up prior to the plant, they would be city customers. Are you saying that is no longer something the city is wishing to
That was
continue?
before you said you didn't want us in the plant, in the park,
I'm just
because
asking. I
we're
want us-
moving
I want-
forward. Well, wait a minute, David. So we're moving forward with engineering to put water where it can be tapped. That's gonna be some cost and expense. But why would the city move forward with that if what you're telling me directly is we voted 5-0 to do this, but we don't want you there?
So what you're saying is the city does
No.
not want any
No,
water and sewer?
no, I'm not saying that. I'm not gonna have my
Along
words
US 90.
twisted. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you're coming to us saying you don't want us in the mega industrial park. That's what Mr. Williams said very clearly. So if that's the case, then we don't want to come where we're not wanted. Now, that being said, we're the only organization that has engineering moving forward to put a water line in there that can pump 4 million gallons, and they can do it way before any plant you could build. So if we want to work together, we can work together. But if we don't want to work together, I mean, I'm tired of it always being the city's fault and trying to say the city's not doing this, the city's not doing that. That's bullshit. So we're going to talk a little talk here. The city has moved forward for a year, and I don't want to hear about 40 or 50 years ago my grandparents were hearing about me, because that ain't important. So no, it's not important.
You is not free.
To anybody, it's not going to be. As a county resident, it's not important. As a county resident, it is not important. What's important is we provide jobs at the mega industrial park. So the whole time, what we've been working together is to provide the engineering to have the water ready. Now, we were working with you, David, and I found out at the last meeting that Rocky had no idea about it. Staff was talking to you about the possibility of running y'all's cup through our line. Well, that would have saved y'all some money. We still would do that. It would still be your water. But the thing is, we got to that meeting and he didn't have a clue about it. And so I don't know where you go from that. So, I mean, we want to work together, but it seems like the communication, even when we come to a communication like this, it's not always upfront and correct. So I don't know how you solve that issue. The city's already has the money set aside to do the water system up to the residential piece on the north side, which this committee talked about for at least 6 or 8 months. We brought it here to decide what direction it would best be served. So I don't know if the communication didn't go back to the county commission, or if it's just they don't want to have, I know you don't want to be tied up by the city, and I understand that. But at the same time, if we're going to work together and be partners, we need to work together and be partners.
Here, let me say something. Projects that we can work together on, we're gonna work together. Projects that we can't, we're not gonna agree. Whether you like it or I like it or not, there's gonna be some projects we're working on, whether I as a person like it, don't like it, but if that's what majority of the board wants, then I'm supposed to be majority of the board. And you always keep, this is what I don't like. I'm fortunate enough to have been here 40 years. And I know what's been going on in 40 years. So you say you don't want to hear about 40 years, when you put your earplugs in, I'm going to talk about what happened in 40 years. Our point is to provide jobs for Liberty County. And we have not been in a position, I listen to you. And we have not been in a position to do that on the county utilities. We didn't go in this utility business because we wanted to. We were forced to do so, Mr. Todd. And when there's utility projects we can work together on, I am 100% for working on one we can work together. Them that we got to go our separate ways, then we have to go our separate ways. But at the end, it's the benefit that one governing body see is a benefit to accomplish what we want to. When our kids finish school, they don't have to go somewhere and work. We can have high-paying jobs right here in Columbia County. We have not been able to do that for the last 40 years, starting in 1976 with Tom Fool. Now let's just call an ace or spade a spade. That's the way it's been. Every time a company come in, we had to run to Tallahassee or go to Washington, try to get funds to put in a starring septic tank line, a sewer line, a water line. They look at us and say, we ain't got time for that. We just happen to be fortunate enough to have a good partner with Plum Creek, original Plum Creek. That the county didn't have to put in a penny, not one penny. We were fortunate enough to have a good landowner on Bell Road. Miss Archie Bullock, that worked with us up there to help developing the Bell Road car. Once that started, all these other landowners come in and say, we want to be part of this. We want you all to change the duty. To be able to do that, we have to be assured that we can run utilities up there and buy that. And the city was committed to do that, and we were committed to help the city do that. That's the project we work together on. But if this board feels like there's a problem they need to go along, they need to go along.
That's right.
You know, I know you didn't have anything to do with what happened in the past, but I do. I sit through it. I sit through it. When we asked Wendell Johnson to put a meter right there at the Oasis bar, to 12 minutes line, we could run water to Ellenfield, and he put the rate so darn high that we had to go in the utility business down there. That's the honest reason we in the utility business, because we couldn't get the city to work with it. We had DEP telling us these folks got arsenic in their water. Y'all got to do something.
That's one side of it.
No, that's the only side.
No, there's two.
But you're gonna defend your territory, I'm gonna defend mine.
And so,
but I've been here and been through.
so let's get back to the conversation at hand on the mega park. Are you saying, is your board saying you do not want us to help at the mega park?
The board on Thursday night said, David, would you tell them what the board said on Thursday night? Not Ron Williams, not Tim Murphy, but 5 board members.
So there was always the agreement the county and city had been working together for several years, cooperatively, successfully. There was always the understanding and working with the city that there may be some customers along 90 that would be city customers because they would have needs prior to the county having a sewer plant available or a water plant available. That was always the understanding. If that's no longer the case, the county needs to know that.
No.
Having said that, what the board voted 5-0 was to build a potable water plant at the North Florida Mega Industrial Park. That is what they voted. They did not vote on anything other than to build the potable water plant.
At the mega site.
At the mega
This project that Ms. Bell just alluded to. That's exactly what we were talking about.
So, but that's not the way it was said a minute ago. It was said that not to spend any money out there, that the county voted 5-0 for us not to be there. And that's what was said. So that's what I was understanding. So I must have misunderstood that, because every customer that touches our line will be our customer. If our line touches that property, that's our customer. So, and I think that goes the same way with sewer and water. I think that's what the state law says. I think that's what the city ordinance says within the 5-mile radius of our line. So I think we have some more communication to do, because I've heard 2 different ways it was communicated just now. One, don't spend money and don't go out there, which is a whole different story than what you just said, which is, you know, we need to work together. So are we going to work together? I mean, how much?
Now, I can't speak for the Board of County Commissioners. Obviously, you have 2 commissioners there. They can speak for the Board of County Commissioners. But the county commissioners has always said exactly what Commissioner Williams said is, where we can work together, we will work together. And where we can't work together, we'll go our own way.
So maybe we need a map and get together and draw a little spot and say, this is your spot, this is our spot. That might make it a little easier if that's the way we need to do it. And then just say, you know, here at the park, you're doing this and we're doing that. I don't know if that would make sense to save a lot of duplication of services, because one of the big reasons of putting in that line, like, what is the need for the city's line if we're not gonna be running the water to the residential? That doesn't make any sense.
Because as Glenn, excuse me, Glenn just said, yeah, have we put forth that scope of work yet? No. Is that in the plan to increase our our cups? Absolutely. But my point is that we know we got a couple really good potential clients, and like Glenn said earlier, we're fortunately they're at a very moderate usage rate, but that could change in a matter of time. So, but as me and you talked about, and I'm sure you and other board members, the 2 million gallons that Mr. Sampson spoke about, our cup, call it our water, call it whatever you want to. It's never been presented to our board what the real costs are. When I say our board, this board and the Board of County Commissioners, what the net cost would really be to, like, I think Todd, and stop me if I'm wrong, but we'll pump our 2 million gallons out of their well that they don't have a cup for right now. What would that cost be? Because in mind of your conversation, we're fixing to, we're talking rail extension. We're talking, we did approach enough to get the grant to get basically inside the park with the road infrastructure and crossing. But there's a lot more road going behind that thing. And so I guess my simple point is, with this proposal or whatever, wherever that broke down, I don't know. But as me and you talked about, we need a real number to what, okay, if we're able to pump 2 million gallons through the city's wells, what will that net cost be to us? To where we can analyze and make it, because and I'm not gonna go into detail, but what I know my friends in Lake County just went through, on their projected water plant, we can be in the same situation here and not have funding to do such. And, but if we take, I'm just throwing numbers, if we take $2 million, $3 million, we're in line, a little more in the water pumping business that quick. You know what I'm saying? It could be, like you said, you were talking, if you got $1 million savings, that's $1 million worth of roads somewhere, or whatever our need would be.
Going back to that too, so I know Paul had started some preliminaries of what we could do. We were looking at a cost plus basis to do that. I think we were talking about like cost plus 10. Now that's not been approved by the council. That would be something we would discuss here, but I think you fix it on a fixed cost basis if you wanted to do that. We would be open to that. I think it makes the most sense as a county and city resident, especially knowing what we're going to be looking at on the north side and what we're going to be pursuing for a new water plant, a new sewer plant. I think that's going to allow us a lot of possibilities to hook that back up to the existing system to help with the limitation of the water going into the park. If we get an 18 million gallon water use permit on the north side, there's possibility of working that system in another way. So, I mean, we're open to that. And I think I don't know where that piece fell apart or where the discussion was. I think it's good you look at the cost, say, what's the cost of that plan? When that comes back, then you have to make up your mind, what's the best use of those funds? Because in the utility business, you can go broke in a hurry buying plants and doing all of this. Who knows what the water plant's going to actually cost? I know you've got some idea, but
We do.
hopefully it'll be less.
Well, I know, like myself and Lynn talked in the past, there's a lot of these industrial users, they're after non-potable water. This, the process, whatever they're manufacturing, whatever. Of course, you don't, so in my opinion, the plant design is not a wash, if you want to say, but, because even though we're both going out the same option, it seems like nothing that y'all pay is not possible. That's possible.
No.
Potable water can be used for both industrial and non-industrial uses.
You could use potable either way.
Here again, it's not Ron Williams' idea, it's the Board of County Commission's idea, and I'm not gonna get up here and disagree with my fellow board members. They can do what they want to and say what they want to, but I will never, ever get up and disagree with a recommendation of my fellow board members.
The concept of
It's
pumping.
just that simple. I got that much respect for the gentleman I served with. They can say in a board meeting, no, Rob, we change our mind, we might want to do this, do that. But I will never not defend the action of the board.
The concept that you spoke of pumping through the city system was presented at a meeting of the board and was not supported. We've always worked together on projects all across the city and all across the city's utility spectrum, from Plantation Park to 4775 to Bell Road. This is the first we're hearing that the city is saying, if you ask for a permit, if you ask for a tap, we will not honor it. That is our concern.
Well, this is the first I think we were hearing, as it was stated, I think we go back and watch it, that the county said, do not spend money there, it's a waste of money. Was that not what was said? So if we're not to waste money there, I don't want to waste money there. And do you understand that point too? Because to have a tap, you got to have a line, correct?
You currently have a line along 90.
We do.
That line currently has capacity.
We do.
The city has always talked about connecting customers along that line. If
Oh, yeah, anybody on
interested in
90,
that,
yeah,
we've never heard that.
Definitely.
And I'm not here to argue with the board.
No, we're not going to
That's a
accept taking
political
on new
decision between
customers.
the two boards. I'm just stating this is, if the city is not interested in connecting customers along
No,
its
no,
existing
I think it's two
water line,
different things. Our line on 90 is not in the mega industrial park. It's on 90. The new line, the line we're spending money engineering and putting in place from the partnership we've had in place from the beginning, as long as I've been involved, is inside the park.
correct. But the line that Ms. Bell was talking about was connect to your existing water line that runs out to the prison. It was not to connect to the line anywhere in the industrial park.
And that's
This is
something
the
we can
first
look
that we've
into
heard that
and
the
see.
city would do.
But I think it's important, we gotta know we can work together where we can work together.
I agree.
If we can't work together, we can't work together. And I think that's why a map might be helpful. But, you know, maybe in the future, we would have it tied down, you know, a little bit better. And missing some of that old piece, maybe it would have been better to be involved in those talks that I missed.
And
But
again, I am not here to argue with the boards. That's strictly a political decision between the two boards.
And all I can do is return it back to council to see what their idea is. Because again, I'm speaking for myself as part of this committee, but not as, you know, the full council, obviously.
But Ms.
But-
Bell's intent was to apply for a tap permit, just as any other customer, to an existing water line. That's what she was referring to when she was presenting on the sewer plant. There also may be some customers along US 90 that would want to tie on to city utilities.
Oh, that'll be a requirement. I mean, you're on 90 touching our water, you're gonna tie onto it. I mean, that's just,
I mean, I'm not trying to be
yeah,
argumentative.
I'm
I'm
not
just
being
saying, you
argumentative.
just told us,
That's how it's gonna go.
but you just told us you didn't want those customers. So that's, we just.
No, I did not say we didn't want
We
the
just need
customer.
clarification.
No, that is not what I said. I said, if you don't want us in the mega industrial park, we don't have to spend the money. That's what I was told y'all wanted us to do, was not spend the money. I never said we didn't want a customer on 90. I said, we're not going to lose any customers on 90 or current customers.
So what you're saying is customers along 90 would still be
No,
able to
come on
receive
now.
water and sewer tax.
David,
I'm just.
David, come on now. We will hook up every customer we can hook up. And, you know, whatever we have to do to protect the city's utility, we'll have to do it. I mean, I'm open to, as a councilman, to whatever we have to do, whether it be contested DEP permit or whatever we have to do to protect our water. We just have to do it.
And David, we
Or we
did
can
have,
work together.
I'm sorry, Tom. We did have discussion relevant to that, and yeah, it was kind of, it was opposed. But there was never a hard number what the net cost would be, correct?
Correct.
So I don't think that's asking too much. I mean, Paul, how realistic is it to come up with that real number? You know, and let me just say this. As a metered customer or as the city pumping the 2 million that we got, what's the cost of getting, for lack of better words, our water to the mega site?
Basically, all you'd be looking at, Mr. Murphy, would be taking basically the cost of what it costs us to treat a gallon of water or per 100,000 gallons or something like that. Based on what we pay today versus chemicals, power, everything else, what it costs us, because mine keeps up with all that, all our plants keep up with that information, what we pay every year. And it could be something that it could be adjusted each year. Say like right now, fuel costs and everything else is high. Say next year it's a little bit less. It could be adjusted based on what the city pays to treat the water, our natural cost on it, plus like we talked about, 10% above, which we just throw that number out there. You know, basically, as long as we recoup our costs plus a little bit for maintenance and things like that. Because the maintenance would be tied into the actual cost of treating the water. So basically, you could be prorated on something where you look at it every year based on what the cost is, to adjust it like that and come up with a percentage to pump it, you know, through the system. Basically how we had talked about doing it before.
Well, I would make the recommendation, let the city make that proposal to us where we've got that in our toolbox. You know, but I agree with Ron, you know, we definitely, the other night, agreed to go forth with the potable water design at that plant, at the cup that we've got designed now. I don't even recall what's the, anyway, that's another question, but anyway, go along with that design, but as Glenn said before, and I agree with him, you know, a phone call can, I mean, come on, the bottled water could deal. Oh, man,
What's that?
the capacity needed for that bottled water deal.
They needed 650,000 to start.
Yeah, but total out 4 million.
Maybe three.
Okay, so, you know, but I'm just saying realistically, that can all change the whole game in one phone call.
But that was after 3 to 5 years.
No, I understand that, but we're hoping that we got another customer going next door. You know what I'm saying? That-
Yes.
Yeah, in just a matter of months, you could have 3 potential customers, like Mr. Williams said, that you're turning away because you don't have it. So, it just seems to me like yeah, we were presented that. I heard that, well, I was in that same conversation, but we've never presented it. So, I mean, all 5 of us, just speaking for our board, we can all do math. And I mean, it's simply, I'm like Ron, I'm gonna do what's best for the whole county, you know, as a whole. And, I think we need to be presented a number where we really put it, you know, not just a 10% running around. And, let's see what that hard cost is, you know, where we can take it with our future plans. And then, of course, as Todd said, it's gonna bring us together. Either we're gonna work together on this project or not.
I think a number would be pretty easy to come with historical costs and just say this is the number based on what the costs were at that point. But again, I don't want to step it down. You've already denied wanting to look at that. So if we get on the agenda to present that, it's not going to be a positive thing. Then it's going to look like we're coming in. I mean, I would like to give every opportunity as a county resident and taxpayer. I would like to think that the county's looking out at the cost piece of it and not just saying, let's spend $10 million if we don't need to, if we can do it over here cheaper.
I agree.
And so, you know, I would be open to presenting something like that, but I don't want it to be a negative where it's just an argument. I mean, if it's just a presentation, say this is possible. I don't know how it went. It didn't get voted for, obviously.
Did DEP even say that we could do this? Or Swanee River?
No,
They are against it.
When we were applying for a consumptive use permit, they never said no, but they said it would be much more difficult than doing a
That's
modification
why we could.
to our existing permit.
So Jamie, there's other information.
If I may inject, the last meeting, when you guys brought this up, and I went to Swanee River, and I talked with Swanee River, and they said it could be done. We'd have to have a master meter, and we'd have to account for the 2.1 million that went to you. As far as FDEP's, their site is, once it leaves our meter, you guys are the customer, but if you resell it, then you have to do the same back-T sampling, all the compliance sampling that you're required to do for your own system. So basically, everything would be sampled twice. You'd have to do it, we'd have to do it. But it's legal by both of them to do it.
So it's funny, Swanee River's telling us something different than they're telling them. That's interesting. But it's not,
Well, when I talked to Swanee River, they said that they had had a meeting with the county and the county never brought it up to them.
That's what they were informed of. So, and Jamie's got examples where this is taking place right now, just like that, all over the state of Florida, and it's saving a ton of money. So It's just whatever we want to do to move forward. I mean, I'm not against a presentation, but I don't want it just to be a point making. If it's, certain things are just to make points. So if it's just going to be embarrassing to make a point, I'd not be for it. Now, if we're really thinking this might be an option of something, hey, this is possible, I'd like to get the numbers in front. Maybe it's not a presentation. Maybe it's just a document that says this is what we're willing to do. Maybe that will be enough instead of a presentation to say, this is historically what the cost was per 100,000 or gallon, and come up with that. And then and you could even break it down as far as you want, saying, here's the expenses and where they're derived from, which you can see if you look at the budget pretty much. But I think that would be something, I would not be opposed to doing that. But again, I understand where the county is. I just want to make sure, again, and reiterate, because I'm hearing that the county does not want us in the mega industrial park at all and not to spend money there. So I want to make sure, David, because that's not what you're saying. You're twisting around and saying we don't want to be there. And I'm not going to say that. We have moved forward on engineering. We have approved the money for the engineering, and then we're being told on the back end, by the way, we don't want you there. So that's not how partners operate. So, and I understand there's other long-held problems, but we're trying to work through that to be a good partner. And I think that's an important thing. And I think we've been communicating quite well with the current administration. So if y'all don't want us there, we don't want to be in your way. That's all I'm telling you. And if we're being told you don't want us there, we don't have to be there. But if we're not going to be there for some of it, we're probably not going to be there for any of it, because that wouldn't make sense either.
Well, the whole hall would know.
Well, no, I think there's some ability. You're saying you only want us there when it's beneficial to you.
No.
And so I think, partners, that's not the way you would do it. And so maybe it's like what y'all said earlier, and I agree with this. I've always agreed with this. There'll be places we can work together, places we can't. And that's the case. Bell Road, we worked together good on that project. We worked together good on the 47 project. I think we'll continue working well on projects. I got another one I want to shoot by you today, which is a great time to try and get in your pockets. But I think anything that brings jobs to Lake City and Columbia County, I'm for. And so, whichever way the county chooses to go, we can work within that framework.
And here's my thing: when we can't work together, there's no reason to be bashing one another.
I agree with
We can't work
that.
together on this one. We can't work together. We got one coming. Where's Steve at?
He just went to the bathroom, I think.
I'll wait till you come back.
I saw him get out.
If we feel there's a mutual agreement, we can't work together on this, then so be it. There's no bashing. We still work on those
That's
projects
right.
that we can work together.
I agree with that.
Can I clarify something too? You'd mentioned a minute ago, we worked well on the Bell Road project. That's not true. We lost that project a couple of times through that whole process, going forward, trying to work out the utility process. We ultimately got it worked out, but the company was gone twice. And we had to beg the company to stay. So I want to make sure that you understand that you have the system, but the things that were offered to the county as a solution to that were not working. But we were fortunate that we were able to save the project because the company really wanted to be here. So I think that frustration that you're hearing from county commissioners, they don't want to be in this position anymore. So if there is a solution that can go forward so that we don't have to worry about availability and rates, rates are critical in industrial development. Knowing exactly what your cost is so that you can be competitive when you negotiate with a client is very, very critical. What is the cost of your real overhead? Are you paying for a plant? How was that plant? How were you afforded the opportunity to purchase that plant? And how efficient do you run? And what gets thrown into those costs? If that's going to be negotiated every time once you go forward down the road, those are problematic for the county. And that's what we've been dealing with all along. And you understand the situation we had prior. I'm just going to go ahead and say this. Project Bell, whether anyone wanted the project or not, is sitting over in Clay County. Project Bell was 150 jobs at 75 to 80,000 a year. Yes, it took a significant amount of water. The water was right at the city's capacity. but it could have worked. Well, we were told we couldn't get a cup. Within 11 to 12 months, we got 2 million gallon cup. And the county asked the city, could you work with us for a year, loan us this, and we will give it back to you, and we can go forward. Their needs and demands were in a second and third phase. So they were going to be stepping up from 6 to approximately 1.2, or 1.2, and then on up, 1.8, and then up to 3, 2.8 to 3. That would have given us the time, and they were willing to work with us. And they're a very, very high-end scientific engineered company when it comes to water, well respected in the world. So we lost that opportunity. However, that's the frustration that the county has, and we had all of the city people in our meetings for over a year, working with and putting out front and saying, this is the direction we're going, and then all of a sudden it gets clipped. I'm listening to my fellow commissioners say they don't want to be in that position going forward. They want to be in control. Rate and availability is critical. And the county has made a commitment to go forward with alternative waters. I want to say that one more time. Mr. Williams said it very clearly. We want to demonstrate that we can put more water back. The commissioners have said that. We want to be responsible to the minimum level flows. We've hired an engineering team. We're going forward with the scope of work. And this will be a long-term project that'll be going 5, 10, 15, 20 years, because that's the future of what it's going to take to be able to provide the necessary capacities for water and sewer for communities like ours that are in very high demand. Right now, the Economic Development Department has more projects. What have we got, Jennifer? 10 or 12 projects on the board right now for this time of the year. We had 42 projects last year. We're going to be signing, we're going to be signing probably 5 projects here shortly. We've got some significant commercial projects. The commercial projects know that these other projects are coming on, so they all work together. And we've got them in 5 different locations. Now, the county has spent millions of dollars on grants to bring infrastructure in all of our critical development areas. It's been done, it's demonstrated, and it's happening. We're working with the legislators in Tallahassee. We're working with consultants in Washington and our legislators in Washington. And we've got significant potential and promise. So going forward, we can't sit back here and doubt and wonder. I'm just speaking from what I'm hearing from commissioners. So this is the position we're in. Forget yesterday. We need to go forward with what we're doing. We all need to get along and work together because everybody's going to benefit from it anyway. The economic impact and the jobs, the capital investment related to ad valorem taxes is going to be huge. Some of these projects that we're working on are $100, $200, $500 million. They're going to hit here. And when they do, they're going to allow city and county government to continue to lower taxes as we go forward in the future. That's the real goal anyway, is for the taxpayers and for the young people to be able to get jobs going forward, good paying jobs. And then we also having to the formula significant workforce training. That is huge on the governor's checklist. And we've got some good things coming along in that regard. So I said my little thing. So I'll leave it at that. Paul?
I agree with only one thing Glenn said, and that is we need to move forward. Glenn is delusional. I'll tell you that right up front. I sat in just about every one of these meetings with Glenn. Glenn couldn't come up with an exact figure to save his life. Every time we turned around, every meeting we had, it was something different. He doesn't even understand utilities. I don't know why the county put so much stock in him. He is one reason they have lost so much stuff. You cannot go to a meeting and have somebody tell you, we need this, we need this, we need that. All right, then the next day is something totally different, or the next week. Now, how in the hell are we supposed to even come up with any kind of plan when he can't? Yeah, he can go out there and get all these companies to say, hey, yeah, we want to come here, but then he can't even tell us what they need. And if it isn't something so damn unrealistic, you can't, Glenn, if you can't supply it, you can't supply it. And to sit there and you say that we didn't want to work? Oh, hell no. No, that is not the damn truth. I've sat in these meetings. I've listened to your bullshit. And that is not the damn case. No, I'm not,
I
Glenn.
think you are.
No, you sat here, we all went to Mr. Sampson's point a while ago. The city gets bashed by the county all the time. And you're one of the world's worst. And then you sit here and you want to make a comment at the end
You want
that we
Hold
want to
on.
move forward?
You want to continue?
Hold on, David.
I'm
Taking
done.
a second. The city and county have to work together. We do work together. We sometimes have our differences as brothers may fight. You have to look at it that way. But the bottom line is what everybody here has so far said, which is we have to work together where we can. Where we can't, we can't. On a staff level, Paul and I have worked well together. We know where the city wants to be, we know where the county wants to be, and we all want more industry, more jobs, more tax base, more growth. If we're going to do that, we have to work together.
That's right.
And I think staff-wise, on a staff level, we're committed to trying to do everything we can to keep everybody where all sides benefit, not one side or the other. So the city benefits, the county benefits. I think that's where we need to be going. And I'm saying that as a citizen, and I'll sit down.
I agree with that. You say something?
So I agree.
Bottom line, Todd, it's just like it is. We can work together, we can work together. And where we can't, we can't. Now, you know, I know what's going on from the bottom to the top. All I know is that it's been difficult in the past. If the future is brighter, then that's what we need. But when the county look at utilities, I think we look at utilities in a sense other than how the city look at utilities. You all look at utility as a revenue source. I don't know. I imagine over half of your budget is money earned from utility. That's just a comment. We don't look at it that way as a revenue source. Not directly at utilities. We look at it from the standpoint of bringing a company in by the county owning that system. We can negotiate rates way lower than you do. Because we're not here to generate revenue from utilities. Where we generate the revenue is when that county, that company comes in and all these people get a job, good paying job. They go out and they build them a house. Then they pay property tax. That money goes into the county coffers. When you get more money going in the county coffers every year from new jobs, new houses coming on the roads, then that's where we reap the benefit. So if we have to lose, just make enough money to keep a system alive and running, that's fine with us. Because in the long run, we gonna benefit for the additional taxes that goes on the tax roll.
I can see that point of view. I think if it starts running into big losses, that'll be a different conversation. Because then I'll be down there as a citizen standing at that podium yelling at y'all saying, what are y'all doing with my dang tax money? Because I don't get none of that ad valorem back because all of our taxes will be rising because values are going up, which that's a good problem. But I don't think you can look at utilities as a negative income. I mean, I know.
I didn't say negative. Negative. The positive of the income would be to be able to add on and expand the system. So that's not negative. Negative is not breaking even. We're breaking even enough to expand and keep the update of the utility.
Yeah.
So that's not negative.
And I think that formula is a tough formula because I know we struggle with that too, is spending the money back in the repair side of it, because utilities are not a cheap industry to get into for sure. But I think the main thing is talking about the ad valorem tax piece. That's a crucial piece because the city definitely, if we can move on to item 5, I think we're done with item.
Before you do, Jamie, you jumped up.
Oh, you wanted to say something? Go ahead, Jamie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just two minor things. One, if there are questions as to whether or not Swanee would permit the situation that's been discussed, I would suggest inviting the Director of Resource Management or the head of the Water Use Permitting Program to come and talk to the commission and the council or the Joint Utility Advisory Committee. The reason why it's a big question mark is Swanee has never done it, but like you said, it's been done in St. John's, it's been done in Southwest, and it's been done in South Florida Water Management. From a DEP perspective, the phrase you're looking for is consecutive water user. From DEP's perspective, you're just one big customer, and because you're big, you're responsible for your own water quality when you're on the other side of the meter. That's it. So it's a consecutive water user on DEP's side. And on Swanee's side, it's just the way the permit is written with its conditions broken out, but it's not a big difference between having two separate versus one together. So just a point of clarification there. And then a second point of clarification that I actually think is important to resolve before April 8th is that the wastewater treatment facility in the North Florida Mega Industrial Park needs water. And the water from US 90 to the wastewater plant is completely separate from the project we talked about, which is the 24-inch water main from the city's water treatment plant to the park. The 24-inch water main was intended to serve the entire park with potable water. Completely separate discussion, in my opinion, than the small water main going from US 90 to the wastewater treatment facility, which is effectively as a single customer because the plant needs potable water. And so either that discussion needs to be resolved in one way or another, or the plant will need to drill its own well to serve its own water supply. But we need water at the plant, and I need that resolved before we go out to bid, ideally. I know it's a little awkward, but so I apologize for stirring it
That
up.
was missed, that's why it isn't, me, you ain't been texting. Just
So, thank you.
get around the service break.
Yeah, the plant needs water, and it would either be as a customer of the city or drilling its own well and providing its own water supply, which is fine. We can do that. It's just a matter of how the collective governing bodies want us to proceed. That's a separate concern from the big water main, but plant needs water.
You're on the spot, David, what's the plan?
Well, I think that would be a decision of the whole board to make,
Yeah,
not David.
That is correct. I'm just staff. There is a third option, which I've not yet discussed with Jamie, which I will discuss with Jamie. I won't mention what it is because I haven't discussed it with the engineer yet.
Steve, maybe bring in here.
I haven't seen Steve come back.
Thank you.
Okay, moving forward to the, talking about a joint resolution on the annexation of the 90 corridor. That's one of the 4 areas we're working on too, is the west side. One of the issues we run into in the city, both in utilities, but not just utilities, but also with police, fire, and continuation. I can tell you I had an issue just recently, Mr. Hollingsworth, where we're running into problems where part of the property is in the county and then the city's next door. And so we're having some real issues with different service levels. And I discussed it with David, he took off now, about the possibility of a joint resolution to fix that along that 90 corridor. We've got some other people coming in that's going to develop, that's going to want to be in the city right there next to the Publix Plaza. I think they're going to want to come in, it looks like. So if the easiest way to fix it would be a joint resolution between the boards to see about closing up that 90 issue that's all the way down. So that'd be something I would ask that would go back before both boards to discuss it with them through staff. And also any of the, at that time, if we could take care of any of the enclaves that might be popped up in different places. I just think that would make it smoother and an easier transition. And that is something I would ask that y'all would look into and advise David to, at your commission meeting, to talk to us and see if it's something that we can work out. And I don't know, I think it would make sense for everybody. I think the sheriff will be on board. I know that the police department's on board. I think for utilities, it makes sense, and it's gonna make sense for the taxpayer that's at the end. So that's something I would like to see. And then in addition to that, any comments on that first?
We, and I believe that, I know there was I know it's a quagmire with emergency service. I said the fire department of the city, county, city, county. And now I thought that we had a interlocal agreement already in place with law enforcement.
That
Where anything facing 90, the city would respond to it, and anything behind 90, if it was county, and they had sit on both sides, the county would respond to it. But what you are wanting is to make all that along 90, all city.
That's right. Close the gap up there, the gaps.
Now will the residents, the owners of the property have some say so on it, or will the county just override their desire to or not to?
If we did it by joint resolution, there wouldn't be a vote on it, but I'm not sure. I mean, it took a long time to get the message in, but I'm not sure. That would depend. That's the reason we were proposing this way. It's actually David's idea, kind of doing it that way because it'd be the cleanest, easiest way to do it. But we have been talking about it for some time, and it would just make it a little easier. Now, will there be property owners upset? There could be. Now, the majority of them in the old days, the reason they were kept out of the city was owners that ain't there anymore. A lot of times those owners have gone, and now we got national companies and different ones there. Yeah. So I think that's one thing that will make it easier. And as part of that too, there's one other piece that we want to work on annexing in, and that's the county piece that right there connects to the airport, so we can annex the airport in, which we're doing a lot of work out there. So that's a separate too. That's something that you guys can just at your board decide whether or not you're going to allow that to happen. I think we have the application. Is that correct? Or did we have an application on that from the county, Paul?
I'm not aware.
Did we never get that far? But that's the only piece we need right there to connect to the airport at this time, isn't it? I mean, we're fixing the one that had the Scrivener's error. Once that error is fixed at the next meeting, then that's the next piece.
So which piece we talk about, Paul? Jack? 100 panels? Okay. I thought that was connection.
Yeah, that's the two. So there's two different things. So the 90 corridor and then the 100 panels, that piece right there.
Because I think right now, Mr. Williams, if I'm right, we did the MOU and basically go sidewalk to sidewalk, city answers everything, but we still got them quagmires like we talked about that seems to cause some issues on the 911 side from time to time. But, you know, I'd be very open to looking at whatever the proposal would be, you know. I like the idea, you know, you let the citizens have some input. But it's a lot more beneficial today than what it was back in the 60s.
That's right. That's right. It's a lot different than. So I think we could draw up a proposal of what we're looking at closing so that and present it maybe through administration back and forth before it comes to your board and our board to look at it in the final. And then the only other thing we had, and I don't see this on the agenda, but I wanted to talk about the need for another lift station out off of 47 on it's a northeast corner where 242 is. Do we have an idea of what that's going to be costing yet? Jamie's out there talking yet, but.
No, because first of all, we have to decide what kind of lift station you're gonna put in. Me and David kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday in a meeting we had. And basically, we haven't had the direction yet. When I talked to David, are we gonna apply for joint funding together? Or is the county gonna apply for a grant, city applies for a grant, or are we gonna use some other kind of funds? That's the only thing that me and David were waiting on and then to finding a location, having an engineer come in and find the best location to put the lift station, because you want it at the lowest elevation that you can put it.
This is our regional that we're talking about, Paul, okay.
And that's what me and David had discussed yesterday, some of that.
Paul, we want to make sure that you know exactly where that need to go. There's gonna be one shot, one funding, and you put it where it got to go, allocate, put it where it got to go.
And that's what me and David had talked about yesterday, because he had asked me the location. At that point, we'd have to get an engineering firm involved, you know, using LiDAR and surveys, because you want it based on what's going to be developed there on that side, on either side. You want it to go down in the lowest elevation, so you have the most advantage to be able to gravity to it. That way you only got one line going under 47 to pump back to our lift station, so.
Paul, not to hold you to it, but is there an estimated value on a lift station such as this?
A master lift station like that, I would probably put it at anywhere between $800,000 to $1 million today. And that's without doing any hard research, the way everything is costing right now.
Right.
Brian, do you think that's probably about accurate?
Yes, sir, could probably might be a triplex station.
Yeah. Yeah, because we want to put in something that can handle anything that ever comes over on that side, and the piping under 47, so we don't have to, because like me and David talked yesterday, DOT is real funny about getting out of their state roads or their federal roads, so we only want to get one pipe under there to get to our side, but we want to have something big enough on the other side, even if it's a little oversized, to handle anything that Mr. Stewart could ever end up building over there.
Well, you know, just, with what Mr. Stewart shared with us earlier, of course, you know, there's the ball's rolling out there. And with us coming up next month on starting budget workshops, I would, I love the grants, it is what it is, but I would suggest that the city take, you know, put this as a number one priority, and I'll definitely take it to our board. You know, we can, we got a lot on our plate. We got landfill expansions and what else, Ron? But I guess my whole point is that, without a, jobs grant or anything like that, and you know, the possibilities of getting right now, that could change in the phone call also, but, I'll definitely bring this conversation to our board, and we'll have discussion about this in our budget workshop. But I would entice the city to do such, because I think that's one of them projects that we definitely can come out the ground and work together.
I think so. I think that's definitely something we need to work together. I don't know, are we to the point to engage an engineer yet on it?
If this is something we're going to move forward with, we want to go ahead and get started as soon as you can. I can go ahead and get Jamie to give me a scope of work for another task assignment to see how much, you know, would be involved to find a location to put the lift station.
If you would, that'd be-
According.
I think so. I think that's crucial. We got to move there. I mean, we got some possible development. So Mr. Stewart's gonna have all that filled up all down there.
Yeah.
So I think we should move forward on that. And on the engineering piece, once she gets it back, you have it back tomorrow or no? The sooner the better though. No, we want to, when can the lift be done?
Just for clarification, this is for a master lift station in the southeast quadrant of the State Route 47 I-75 area?
It would be either on
North.
what I call the
Northeast?
south side of 47, Jamie. We're on what I call the north side where we're putting it to now. I call
Okay.
it the south side,
Okay,
but it would be on either side, whichever one
Okay.
it comes up based on the elevations of where we can put it.
so basically we would want to do a feasibility analysis / preliminary engineering report to site a lift station and come up with a rough cost estimate, basically.
That's right.
And basically design it like we had originally talked about with that company that was gonna come in there, where they did the clearing and all. We had already talked to them about how they could run up and tie into where we were down there at, what is that, Canyon Creek? In there, so we can go ahead and look at the engineering to go ahead and run the main line under 47 and tie into whether probably in a drop out there to Manhole or the lift station.
In front of the RV park. all in the same PER?
Yeah, might as well, if we're gonna do it all, we might as well do it all one time.
But whatever, just like Paul said, whatever makes most reason, I guess, for this point. But that's very crucial. You know, that's a big expense for any developer, and I think we're at a perfect time. And David, I guess when Paul gets that number, if you would, I ask that you just bring it back to us as a board ASAP, and we collectively as five can decide how we're gonna fund it. So you gotta be cheap, Jamie. Your name's been on this paper an awful lot.
And if they want to pay for all of it, I mean, that's okay too. Deep pockets.
Yeah.
So is it your understanding that it's one master lift station? Change on the east side of 47?
I'd have to look at the elevations out there because the long ago plan was to have basically four, one in each quadrant, right? We could do one master lift station and then either gravity flow from the other side of 75, which is likely from the north side down because the south side of 75 is lower. You could either do one master lift station there and then gravity flow down to it under I-75, or any new development on the northeast part or South 47 would have its own just kind of small lift station to service whatever businesses come in. That would then pump to the master lift station, which would basically take everything east of 47 and send it to Arrowhead in front of the RV park is the intent, right?
Yes.
So it really, I'd have to look at the elevations out there. I haven't looked at east of 47 much, but it would either be, I think one master lift station could service it, then you either do a gravity collection system throughout the area or just have little pump stations. Even businesses could have, we call them grinder pumps. They're the same thing that's going inside the RV park would be 6 grinder pump stations, which are just like little tiny pump stations that would serve each business. So you can work around it, but if you're going to be expanding that way, it makes sense to have one big pump station that can move all your flow across 47. Sorry, I think out loud, so that might have been a little disjointed.
And we want to make sure it's sized right for that future growth there, because that
Yeah.
whole corridor is going to be booming.
So you've got Chant Road, and then you've got the other side of the interstate where Scott's other project is.
Yes.
So you're talking about just one lift station for all of that? Or are you talking one on each side?
I mean, it sounds like what I'm being asked to scope out would be one master lift station that would very likely be on the south side of 75 and pump across 47 to connect with what we're currently finishing constructing on Arrowhead. And then anything that may be constructed north of 75, depending on the elevation, would either just flow by gravity down, or you would put in a very small station to pump down to the big master station. It just, I have to look at the elevations. I can't tell you for sure
You
yet.
still have to go under 75?
We would, the intent would be to only go under I-75 one time in that location because Paul is right. DOT is very particular about minimizing utility crossings over the highway. So thankfully, with that being an overpass there, it might actually be a little bit easier to drill under it in that, I don't know, or harder. I don't know. It's DOT is going to be particular regardless. So, yeah, I mean, we'd be going deep, relatively deep under. They request at least 10 times the diameter of the hole that you're drilling for depth. So it's going to be deep regardless. It's just a matter of kind of where you put it. But yes, we can scope that out, and it would basically be like a lift station siting study and or a East 47 feasibility analysis. I'll figure out to call it something fancy, but I can pull that together for you. No problem.
How soon do this lift station need to be, this master lift station you're talking about, need to be in for you to do everything you need to do out there on that interchange?
Well, like Jamie said, we're moving ahead of schedule on the project that we're doing now to get it to kick light. Basically, if we get the study done, and which the good part about this is that the funding doesn't have to go through grants, you don't have to wait for something in, to be able to take something online. So we could at any time, basically, once we have an area located, if we could get the easement rights to put the lift station, it doesn't impede any of his development or anything. Just as soon as we get the funding and the engineers done, we can start, get it done.
So you're saying you know what's being requested. You're gonna go out and do all what you need to do and so forth and so on. Just roughly, how long you think that's gonna take to do all
If we are just doing something conceptual and we're not actually sending surveyors out there and just using data we have, I mean, 3 months, if that. And that's just so we can, maybe less. I mean, it just depends if we have to go into the field and if we have, what I need is ballpark estimates of how much flow, or if you can't tell me flow, just like identify the areas of development and I can use industry standards to estimate the flow. But it's just a matter of doing an analysis of elevations, potential environmental impacts, projections of demand and flow, and then coming up with relative costs based on the preferred site and whether we can get easements. So, I mean, I think it's a 90-day project or less. I don't want to say less because we're all busy right now, but I'd say it's a 90-day turnaround on that report, and then we could go from there.
Jamie, in about, we have a potential plan, about 8 months, we'll be presenting site plans for that interchange. So that would be the big kickoff. So probably need to be paying close attention to that. We'll know what it's going to say.
Okay.
Mr. Stewart, come on up.
We've had many or several customers want to buy stuff down there right now, and we got someone that's been hounding us almost weekly to buy a parcel of property to do something on. We end up with the question about the sewer down there. So I'm very encouraged with you to talk about right now. We would be able to say, it would give me great confidence to pursue to move ahead on some things. I'm having a conference with one of the big parties tomorrow. They're calling us for a conference call to talk about some stuff. And we have 3 people right now that would probably buy dirt right now if they knew what was coming. So the challenge we always have is the whole sewer, the jobs grant, trying to figure out the jobs grant, get that lined up. It's the cart before the horse challenge all the time where it's hard to go to somebody and say, well, if you sign this jobs grant and you guarantee that they're going to come and you have to do all these things, then maybe I get the grant since it's a job to do it. So I'm very encouraged to hear the willingness to take a look at something down there and the master lift station we talk about, and we'll help with the easement where they need to go. We understand that. But I sort of, in my mind, I know a spot which I think is the lowest out there. And we've kind of, our plans have kind of kept that aside in case we needed to. So I like what I'm hearing from you. It's I really appreciate it very much. And we got people that want to go down there. It's a good interchange, and I'm committed to making that interchange look good. We've had some other players come by that want to do certain things. I just don't think it look good down there. I want it to be a nice stamp for this community down there. I want to be proud. I live down at that exit. I drive down there. I see it. I want to be proud. My grandkids are telling me what I need to bring in, and they said, you need to bring in. It'd be kind of fun to make it be a nice spot for down there. So I'm encouraged by your conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, I think to me, this is one of the top priorities as far as moving forward to get this thing going, because when that's ready and we have a time frame on it, we're going to fill up down there pretty quick.
We got to keep north 47. That's going to work.
That's right.
I still haven't got an answer to what, I guess I might be not asking it the right way. If there is and Glenn, you can answer this, if there is a company coming in and do a job, is there a job creation grant that you can get to help with the master station? But if I understand here, if I understand what I'm hearing is, there is David to go out for grant. That's gonna take longer to do that, right?
Depending on the grant you apply for, yes.
So what I heard, Commissioner Murphy, if I misunderstood what you said, let me know. If it, y'all what the cost is, the county pay half of it, and you want to address this in our budget with you.
Correct. Yes, sir.
So we on the same page.
Yeah.
Y'all understand what you're saying?
Mhm.
If it costs $1 million, y'all do 500,000, we do 500,000. We're gonna address it in our budget workshop starting in 2 months. She's saying it take, as long as it's gonna take to get everything ready and so forth and so on. So as soon as she have the numbers, we'll know exactly what it's 500 plus or 500.
Yeah, give me I'll put a scope and fee together within the week to get it to Paul and David to review with regard to the preliminary engineering report to site the lift station and figure out how much it would cost and how big it needs to be. And then that design is, I'm not a lift station designer, probably a 4-month design project if it includes some of the collection system. And then it depends how big it is, how long it would take to construct. So but let me put a scope and fee together and I'll get back to y'all on more specific timeframes.
So about 9 months total from today till it's done. Is what I kind of calculated. You're doing so good on the other project. I just want to see what we can do.
At some point, we're gonna have to have a commitment letter for that.
That's right. I like to see it in writing. Getting her to put it in writing is the hard part.
Listen, I'm just the pretty face. Let me go back and talk to the people who actually know how long things of this magnitude take, and I will report back next week to Paul on more specifics. It really just depends on how big you want it to be, what the elevation looks like, how quickly we can get land and survey, and whether or not you want to include some sort of gravity collection system as well, or literally just put in the lift station and the force main to connect to our current project and then let the rest fill in as they come. So there are a lot of questions there about what level of detail you're looking for and how big you want this project to be. And I think the gravity collection system is highly dependent on what the development looks like with the site plan that's coming in. So we could certainly design the lift station and the force main to connect it to the city system, but everything upstream of the lift station is a big question mark until, 8 months from now, you have a potential client come with a site plan. So it's a bit piecemeal without knowing the site plan of the client, but it could be a relatively quick turnaround on lift station siting and design. Construction timelines depend on how big this lift station is, and I don't know how big that's gonna be or what material shortages are looking like with, international
If you'd like
conflicts.
to get with Jennifer and I, we'll be glad to sit down with you and show you what's on the table.
Yeah, we can, I'll shoot y'all an email and we can set up maybe a Teams meeting to share screens and talk about that, and go from there. Thank
Chairman
you.
Brian,
Brian?
How about Paul going back to the lift station? She gonna design this for, she gonna calculate all the property out there. I wouldn't say all the property best suited for development. So we might be looking at 10, 12 years of development in that area. Will this master pump station be big enough to handle that whole interchange until it fill up, or do it have to be added on to later? I don't understand the concept of a master. I understand if it's a master, it's like a king, it's like a corporate thing, it's a king.
it's basically, Commissioner, it's just a bigger lift station, bigger wet well, and bigger pumps. They can pump more out. You want the lines coming out of it bigger so it can pump more flow, more volume. But yes, it would be sized to where basically, generally on something like this, you want to oversize it a little bit. It probably would be oversized for maybe anything, but you never know what'll be there in 20 years.
Right.
But at that point, hopefully it would blow up so much over there. 10 years from now, 15 years, maybe you have to put in another. But yeah, it should be able to handle, once it gets sized, anything that would ever come in there.
Yeah, and that's what I'm picturing in my mind, big enough. 2 years from now, we don't have to go back and add 10 more.
That's right. Okay, Brian?
Yesterday, I just want to let you know the pipe has increased by 17%, and most companies are looking at a year to get pipe in. So whenever you can place your order on this much of a pipe, that we want to act on as quick as we can. Like I said, it increased, of course, steel is already increased, but pipe is, they're looking at a year out with a lot of, just much of a pipe. Concrete, same way on manholes and lift stations.
So knowing this is coming up, is there a way to put together an order to pre-order that, to have it ready?
Again, we don't want to really do that like we do. I mean, the lift station pumps and stuff like that we do, that we know that we're going to use in there, it's fine, we store them, but if you want to buy a bunch of pipe and store it, and it sits out in the sun, nobody has that much facility to store it. Once it's in that sun, it starts taking life out of the pipe, and they go install it, pressure test don't pass, first they're gonna blame the city and county. So you're better off not, like, the last time we bought the pumps, the panels, they take the longest to get, so we had them already in-house here. But like I
So
said,
the long-term items, we could go ahead and pre-purchase once she gets that plan back.
especially like your lift stations and stuff like that, because they're all custom ordered, your manholes are custom ordered. Anything you can custom order and get ahead on, you're better off.
And that's basically what we did on 47. We pre-ordered a lot of the lift stations, just long lead time. And even on the pipe and stuff, I mean, once we get the design, know what we're going to go there, we know the funding's secure, and we know it's still a ways out here, we could go ahead and start pre-ordering stuff and have them, hold it for whatever we can get.
Very good. Thank you.
Good job.
All right, anyone else? Anything else? All right, let's adjourn the meeting.
So move.
Second, we done.
All right. Got a lot of work to do.
Not yet.
Yeah. Oh, not tight. You know, you're talking about